Hey everyone, in this video we're going to read the next chapter of Meet the Gecko. Chapter 10, Hot Off the Press. Wow, my mom whispered. That boy's gotten big. Oh yeah, I choked out, thinking about how Bub'd find some way to pound me at school the next day. How'd he get in here? Dad said. He's Bubba, Dad. He has ways. Everyone was just starting to settle down when Chase said, Has anyone seen Sticky? He was patting himself all over, looking around. After a minute of Sticky not showing up, some woman announced, We've got a gecko on the loose. Come on, people, let's find it. Everyone looked around, on the floor, all around the furniture. I looked up. Geckos love to climb. They can hang upside down, no problem. Geckos are way, way cool. And seeing how this gecko was sticky, well, he could be anywhere. They should check the cash register, I whispered to Dad. Or the safe. I grinned and asked him, You still got your watch? Sticky is such a kleptomaniac. Dad laughed and put his arm on my shoulder. You're just kidding, right? I shrugged and smiled, but part of me really wanted to check the cash register, just in case. Someone probably should have too, because Sticky didn't show up. Finally, the director called, Get the Gecko Wrangler. Everyone else, lunch. Half hour. We've got miles to go before we sleep. Most people filed into the tan green room. Some people ran upstairs. I was dying to go over and thank the gecko for inviting me to watch, but I didn't have to. He came over to me. Hey, Nolan, he said. Glad you could make it. Thanks for inviting me, I told him. He turned to Mom and Dad. Cool kid you got here. Mom was smiling big. She put out her hand and said, I'm Eve Bird, Nolan's mother. He nodded. And I'm Chase Morton. He wiggled his eyebrows my way. The gecko. Just then, Hannah Blockwell came over with a paper in her hand and a grin on her face. A grin that didn't really seem to go with her face. It was goofy. Chase, she said, then looked around at the rest of us. Sorry for interrupting, but she handed Chase the paper. This came via fax. Maggie sent it from LA. You're not going to believe it. I saw the paper as Hannah passed it to Chase. So did Dad and Mom. Our eyes got big. We tried to make them stay small. Tried to act cool. But our mouths and shoulders and heads were twitching all around. Even as a murky fax copy, there was no mistaking my slow-mo. The gecko read the article. He was grinning so big I thought his ears would push right off the back of his head. Finally, he looked at Hannah and said, Who wrote this? Well, it's David Egbert's column, but obviously his source is a mystery man. Yeah, Chase said, Shredderman. Hannah was still grinning. It's hilarious. And even funnier when you realize that Egbert's column is syndicated. This piece will be in papers all around the country. Chase laughed and kind of danced in place. This is so cool. This is brilliant. Slick as a semiconductor, my dad asked, What's this all about? Chase handed over the paper, saying, Remember the mole? The guy you warned me about yesterday? Dad nodded. Mr. Bull? Chase snickered. Yeah. Well, some guy named Shredderman is giving him a dose of his own medicine. Dad was skimming the article, nodding. I've heard of this Shredderman character. Really? Dad passed the paper to me, saying, He's something of a local hero. Chase seemed very interested. Any idea who he is? Triple O. I hadn't thought about it until now. But who else knew the mole was in town? Who also tried to expose him? Bullets started shooting out my sweat glands. Dad stayed cool, though. He shrugged and said, I'm actually investigating that for the Gazette. Well, when you find out, would you let me know? You have no idea how many people would want to thank him. My heart was pounding double speed as I read the article. It was everything I'd sent in my email, plus the writer's own stories about the mole. Hannah eased the paper out of my hands and said, I'm going to make copies and pass them around. This is just too good. Chase said, Great idea, and grinned at me and said, We've probably got time for a quick game of Tekken 3. You up for it? And I grabbed him by the arm. No way. Absolutely no way. She dragged him along, saying, as a matter of fact, they need you in wardrobe. No more disappearing acts. Chase pointed to his magic wristband as he grinned at me and wiggled his eyebrows. See you later, Nolan. I laughed and waved, and when he was gone, I followed Mom and Dad to the side so we'd be out of the way. And while they were debating how long we could stay without wearing out our welcome, a man with a bushy brown goatee went by, pushing a cart of food. He was wearing a white waiter coat, a black bow tie, a chef hat, glasses. He looked like a waiter doing his job, but behind his glasses, his eyes were shifty, beady, darting back and forth. I blinked. He looked sort of familiar. Then his nose twitched, and I knew why. It was the mole.